All right, we're live. This is Thomas, along with Tierra and Tyson. The first time the three of us are together
It's the three G's, baby.
on the Man Cave Archive. So we're going to be doing a little bit longer of a stream today in one video, talking about a few different topics. So I'm just going to get right into it and sort of flow along. So first topic we'll be talking about is the Justice League Dark being handled by J.J. Abrams, is it?
J.J. Abrams is the director of the Justice League Dark. DC is going a different direction. I know a lot of us who have watched the like Snyder Cut would actually prefer a Snyderverse of movies right now, but DC seems to be set on J.J. Abrams coming in and helming the Justice League from this point out. So from what we know so far, Keanu Reeves will be reprising his role as John Constantine. We have a newcomer to the universe in Isa Gonzalez. She's going to be playing Zatanna. And then you have Pierce Brosnan, who was recently announced to be playing Dr. Fate inside of the movie.
Whew. That's hot. Like, I see that they are going in a different direction. I don't necessarily approve because I think they had something already. And I think the problem is they didn't know how to really respect the format. But with Justice League Dark, man, you're talking about one of the most iconic modern era comic book characters in Constantine. You're talking about, relative strangers, but not strangers, because if you were a kid like me in the 90s who was watching like the Batman animated series as well as Justice League in the early 2000s, then you already know who Zatanna is. And if you read comic books like myself, of course you know who Zatanna is. And I know that The Rock is going to be playing Black Adam, and it definitely looks like it's going to yield forth some really, really great opportunities. It'll be interesting going forward because, they had Zachary Levi with Shazam. And I'm wondering how is that all going to play into it? Like, what are they going to do? Like, what is their plan going to be? What is their plan going to be with those characters?
Well, for one, since it's JJ, we already know there's going to be an overly gross amount of lens flare in the movie. So you can already expect to get a bunch of scenes of lens flare at different angles at different times of the day. I'm just joking. But knowing JJ, he's a good...
Found footage?
Yeah, found footage. There might be some of that in the movie. He's a good director. I'm not going to take anything away from him. I did like his interpretations of Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yeah.
I like both of those movies, even though one of them was a retelling of the story of Khan. I thought he did a really good job with like both of those films. My only objection to him recently was The Force Awakens, and so I'm hoping that he could do a way better job with this movie.
And episode 9. Right?
And episode 9.
That was an even bigger objection.
I couldn't even finish episode 9. That's how trash it was.
Oh.
No, I couldn't finish it. But I'm hoping that he does a better job with this movie series. I wonder who the writers are. Because hopefully he has a great team of writers. Because if he's not the one writing the script, the movie is traditionally is really good. But if he's the one writing and directing, that's where JJ's weaknesses show up.
So will he be? Is he slated to direct, or is he going to be more of a producer, more of a sort of overseer of the series at this point?
From what I understand from the story, J.J. Abrams develops a Justice League Dark series for HBO, so he might just be producing, executive producer over the whole project. It might have different directors, because if it's a series, it might have different directors, different writers who come in, and he's just a producer of it, kind of like with what's his name is for the Mandalorian.
Dave Filoni and...
Yeah, and what's his name? I don't know why I'm blanking. Yeah, and John. So he could just be an executive over it, a producer, but we'll see.
Now that you mention it, because I didn't watch The Preacher. I know it was on AMC, and I know it was done by Seth Rogen, who was producing it. But, when you start thinking about the way that the success for the Justice League Snyder Cut came out, I think that potentially could be an avenue that they may want to try to pursue even deeper. because the problem with, even like we talked about previously with comic book movies, is that you're going to have a brand new character like Zatanna that a lot of people don't know. And she could be compelling. She is compelling. She's been in the comic book industry forever and a day. She's a creation that's been used over and over and over again, and has been used to, help explore other aspects of Disney's magic universe, not Disney's, of DC's magic universe. She's along with Deadman, along with even Swamp Thing, obviously Constantine, a variety of other magic-based characters. Dr. Fate obviously being one of them. This could potentially be an avenue, but what I would hope that they would do with it, I'm not saying you got to go full Game of Thrones with it, but I think it would be better if you give the characters the right amount of time to develop. Mm-hmm. Because it's kind of like right now, yeah, you watch Scarlet Witch inside of the Avengers movie, inside of Age of Ultron. But now you know her a lot better after WandaVision. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot more that's to go forward. So that way, if she does like something that will be considered to be weird without WandaVision, it's no longer weird because WandaVision literally explored her character and gave us some great exposition on her. So I think that would be absolutely great for her. And I think also, even with Keanu Reeves, like, I know some people, I liked the Constantine movie with Keanu Reeves. I know it wasn't perfect, but there's no such thing as a perfect movie unless you're the Dark Knight. Or The Empire Strikes Back. Or, those are some two perfect pieces, even concept-wise, even like Inception, one of my all-time favorites. The score all the way down to the visuals, it was a visual and auditory masterpiece, in my opinion. But I think that by them giving them some more exposition, if you're saying it right, that they're going to be producing the series, that he's going to be producing a series and maybe even directing it. I hope it's not a movie. I hope that it kind of goes in the way that Justice League did, where it was 6 parts to a very large movie. That's what I would like.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing as far as with characters like Zatanna, because I feel like, again, the 2-hour window that you get in movies, and you get this 2-hour window if they're being generous, every 2 years. If it's regular, it's probably going to be every 3 to 4 years. It's just, in my opinion, a bit too restricting to tell a coherent story. Because it's I don't know who this guy is until I begin watching this movie. You give me, 20 minutes an introduction, and then, it's it's a very linear process to you getting to the meat of the movie, which is about the middle part of the movie. Once probably starts around the half-hour to 45-minute mark, mm-hmm. and then, by that 2-hour point, you're wrapping it up.
Exactly. You're not giving any time. It's like the problem with the Joss Whedon cut of the Justice League is that Ray Fisher's Cyborg is barely in the movie. The Flash is barely in the movie, and they're overwhelmed by Batfleck, Cavill, and Godot. Like those, those other three are the main pillars of the Justice League.
Definitely.
And then you're trying to introduce two new like characters. I want people to take a seat real quick and understand what George Lucas was able to do with Star Wars in introducing characters. He had to introduce in the same movies Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and Princess Leia. Mm-hmm. If that was today, Leia would have probably only got 5 to 10 minutes. Luke would have probably got 50 minutes of the movie, and Han Solo would have probably got 30 minutes, and then you have to cram this whole action scene into 25 minutes to explain the movie. Star Wars was methodically slow in the beginning of the movie because we all know George's his motto is what
faster and more intense.
Faster and more intense. Even with prequel series, he said he put 20% story, throughout all of those movies, coupled together with like 40% action and like another 30% of like storytelling.
Yeah.
You know, and so, but if he was doing that today, again, the movies would just be cram-packed because you'd be introducing all of these other characters, and that was a problem with the
Through
Joss.
door number 2.
Exactly, that was a problem with Joss Whedon's version of Justice League, and so here, hopefully, with this series, as is what we have been saying, you know, you're gonna have Constantine, Zatanna, and Dr. Fate, aka played by Pierce Brosnan, which this is probably his first foray into he did play in the Percy Jackson movies, but Pierce Brosnan has really never been inside of aside from James Bond, he's really never been in a type of movie like this or a type of series.
You mean the James Bond where he punches and chops persons one time and they're
one
out?
time and they're out. So he's never played in a series like this. So it's going to be interesting to see how does he bounce off of his co-stars.
Yeah, and I really wish that if there was one thing DC, because they love to try to copy Marvel's formula a little bit, I really wish if there was one thing that they were doing, it would be to create long-form series like WandaVision or The Falcon and Winter Soldier or Loki and Hawkeye eventually, instead of just going 2-hour movie. Because I think that, you know, there's just a lot more that you can do nowadays with a high budget, you know, 10-part series, 12-part series, where you can truly introduce characters and, you know, just give people time with them. You know,
I look at it like this, though. With this opening up the way that it has, it gives other things the opportunity to shine. For example, if you pay attention closely, we could have a more developed world that's akin to like a Game of Thrones. And the reason why I mentioned Game of Thrones for the second time is the very first series, the very first book in the series was done immaculately. It was nearly perfect for the very first season. That's where the standard needs to be. The standard has to be we develop something based upon a concept and we fully flesh it out. And I think that just like you were talking about now, by having a long-form series, a long-form conversation, we can better flesh out everything and make compelling characters. Because I think that, like, I don't know about y'all, but, man, Victor Stone's Cyborg's story in Justice League was amazing.
Definitely.
It was amazing. Just to see how he looks through the world. Because that was the other thing that they really did well with it. They allowed him to tell his story through his eyes. He doesn't see himself as Cyborg. He still sees himself as Victor Stone.
Yeah.
He's got all this machinery on him. He's more decked out than Tony Stark, for goodness sake. I mean, clearly he's a cyborg.
Yeah.
Tony Stark is not. But it's just the fact that he sees himself. Prime example, perfect contrast. Tony Stark's last words were, "I am Iron Man." Victor Stone, Cyborg, says, "I'm Victor Stone." I'm not. No. Oh, this monster? Oh, see, that's what my dad did to me. But I'm still human. See, I'm a human. There's a major difference.
Yeah.
In just those two. The thing about it though is that Victor got to fully explore all of his. They allowed Tony Stark to go through his through like 20 movies. And you're not going to get that with Justice League. So why not just allow me what I want?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
next topic?
Yeah, that'll be the end of that topic, and we'll actually put like timestamps, so that way everyone can actually see when we begin the light convo and when we end it. Our next topic is going to be the Ghost of Tsushima movie that just got announced by the directors of the John Wick series, 8711 Entertainment. They actually own their own production studio and everything like that.
Even Mendez was the original producer of John Wick too.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
And so
no, I'm sorry, not even Mendez, even Longoria.
Yeah,
My bad.
Even Longoria. So the
different Eva, still hot though.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So the story reads: Sony Pictures and PlayStation Productions are developing a film adaptation of the hugely successful action-adventure game Ghost of Tsushima, with Chad Stahelski attached to direct. The game recently crossed a massive milestone of selling over 6.5 million copies since its July 2020 debut. The game is developed by Sucker Punch Productions and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment and centers around samurai warrior Jin Sakai, the last surviving member of his clan who must set aside the traditions that have shaped him as a warrior to wage an unconventional war for the freedom of Tsushima. So actually the film is going to be helmed by Stileski, Alex Young, and Jason Spitz. All three of them are going to be having their hands in it. And then Peter Kang from Sucker Punch Studios is actually going to be helping them oversee the entire movie. So,
and what position did Peter Kang have with Sucker Punch? Was he a producer on the game or like the director of the game?
He's the executive producer of Ghost of Tsushima. So,
they definitely have a tall order to come up with for the movie. Mm-hmm. My excitement is very tempered because the history of movies being adapted from video games hasn't been a very good history.
Not at all.
We've gotten a lot of the original Mortal Kombat type movies, which was okay for its time, but I don't think it stands the test of time very well. To a number of other
Thomas, come on,
a number of
Shane
other
Shoes making him say no, please.
Yeah. So I don't. I think the history of movies though, like even I think the one of the latest ones that was mediocre but was still on the better side of mediocre was probably Tomb Raider. But even that, I mean, I don't think anybody was writing home about.
Not at all.
But it was probably better than the original Tomb Raiders with Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, my excitement for the movie is a bit tempered. I'm not, hoping some good stuff from it, hoping that they can somehow make a really good movie and not just get a license and be happy and run with it to get some money,
I'm actually hoping that, obviously, if they follow the game, as you all know, everybody in the game is Japanese except for the Mongolians who are invading the island of Tsushima. And so I'm actually interested to see who are they going to get to play Jin Sakai, who are they going to get to play his uncle, aka No Mercy, inside of the game. In the film, obviously one person who obviously comes to mind is Ken Watanabe, but I actually think that they might go a different direction with his uncle, because his uncle wasn't really a big guy. He's kind of small. He was obviously a little bit taller than what Gene was, but the game was really well made. Was the storytelling? It's kind of an even tempered storytelling throughout the whole game. Nothing is super bombastic. There's not this great. There is great acting inside of it, but it doesn't hit an emotional ceiling like The Last of Us Part 1 in the beginning of that game. Again, I won't spoil it for you, but in the beginning of that game was a very emotional scene. So the game never hits really there, but it does keep you captivated with the story because you're waiting to see what is Jin Sakai going to do. Is he going to continue to follow the traditions of his clan, of what the samurai believe in, or is he going to go ahead and go down this darker path to assure a victory? Because going about it his uncle's ways keeps leading to defeats, versus him doing it his way, this deceptive way, is what's actually helping them win the war. So it'll be cool to see how these guys do it. Obviously, the movie's probably going to be anywhere between an hour and 30 minutes to maybe 2 hours long, I would assume. And so again, it's going to be cool to see what type of direction are we going to be getting. More backstory into Jin Sakai, or are we going to be basically just telling how the game started off, the whole attack, and then from there we're just going to go straight into the action. So it'll be cool to see again what they are going to do with this movie.
If I were being funny, I love being funny in situations like this, I say, Thomas, there is nothing wrong with having belief in this movie franchise because Resident Evil taught us that high quality work comes out of that franchise.
That's one I should have mentioned when talking about excitement.
Listen, Resident Evil Afterlife and Extinction were amazing. I love it.
Absolute garbage.
From the beginning of that series to the end of that series.
All the jumping in the air and kicking the dogs and all that.
It was like some fan fiction, some Comic-Con looking cosplay.
Don't be mean.
it was.
When they introduced characters like Jill Valentine.
Yeah.
Chris Redfield.
Like, the most bogus thing about that was like dressing them exactly like the characters were in the video games. Like that's when I say hitting them like this Comic-Con cosplay looking, feel to it.
Then like, even the like RPD, the like costumes where these like mountaineer, ranger type of costumes look nothing like the actual costuming of like the video games.
I think the big mistake that a lot of these producers in Hollywood will do is that they'll decide they want to take creative liberty. And Resident Evil is a prime example of taking creative liberty. Now, I think that Capcom didn't think that it was going to go that far left because they had, I think it was Paul, I forget what his name is, Paul W.S. Anderson. He directed the very first one. And the very first one was actually fairly decent. It wasn't terrible. It was pretty decent. But what it was, they took so many creative liberties that by the time it got done, the sequels were just off the chain. I mean, they had Nemesis in there. They had, but he was in a desert plain. The zombies had overcome the world, and then we find out no, it's virtual reality. And then it was just a hot mess by the time it was all said and done. Now, I will tell you, the music was ridiculous aside though. I actually listened to the soundtrack on my way flying out to Hawaii, I believe. But point being though, getting back on topic, I have a little bit more faith. And I hate using that word, but I have a little bit more faith in the industry right now in regards to translating certain content because of the original source material and also the company behind it. Now, I may not lie, I may not be the biggest Sony fanboy in the world, but they do own all rights. So everything falls on them. Like, you tell me about the company all you want to, it all falls on Sony. 2, they do have a really good team that's doing it. Look, John Wick, the very first John Wick, second John Wick, third John Wick, third one was probably the weakest out of the 3. But, man, you can't tell me that isn't a good franchise. And I think by them having at least some good source material, that's where it's going to be the tricky part, is how faithful. And then what type of actors are you going to bring in to do the source material? Because Hollywood is not very good with quote unquote diversity. Let's be 100% honest. They'll go get a Japanese person to go play a Korean person. And I'm not saying it's got to be like down to that, but I'm saying, remember a couple years ago they did that movie with what was his name? Born Identity.
Matt
Damon. And
The Great Wall.
The Great Wall. And then he finds himself apologizing. And it's like, y'all didn't think that this wasn't a bad idea from the jump? Like, you already know what it's going to look like, and you don't care because guess what? Quote unquote diversity is not part of it. I don't want to get into that. I want to focus on the topic, which is this movie. I want to see them get great actors first. Get a great script first. Yeah. Let's not worry about, can we put a black person in there? Can we put a Hispanic person in there? This is Japan. This is feudal Japan. I fully expect to see Japanese people, guys. Like, I'm sorry. If you want to tell that story, make it don't call it, the Ghost of Tsushima. Don't put it in feudal Japan. Take it somewhere else, Yeah. And I don't think anybody would care if you did. It's just try to stay as close as you can to something that's already great.
Yeah, I definitely think that they might get I'm trying to say his name. Hiroyuki Sanada. He played Ujio in The Last Samurai.
Yeah.
That might try to get
Oh,
him to play Gene Sakai's uncle.
That was the one who was giving Tom Cruise that work.
The work in the movie. That might get him. They could easily get Koyuki. She played Taka in the movie as well. So to play.
Who played the kid with the bow and arrow?
Man, let me see. I'm trying to find all of them right now.
He got his top knot cut off.
On IMDb right now.
But there's a lot of good actors to pull from that movie, definitely, because I almost feel like they've become that movie. Some of those cast members have become sort of like the face of Japanese actors.
Yeah, I believe it was Sosuke Ikamatsu.
Yeah,
was the one.
But I think that what I would consider doing, and I know it would be terrible, but I would honestly consider maybe, it's gonna sound blasphemous, maybe not even translating it to English. Maybe
subtitles?
Just either subtitles, or you can do the audio, but it's definitely because of the content and the impact. Like, I didn't get to play it because I work a lot. So even this right here doing this podcast with you guys, this is a stretch on my time each day.
Yeah.
But and I love just spending time with you guys. So but that is something that there was a lot of emotion in that movie, like in that video game. Like I'll be watching Tyson play, and he would come to specific parts that when he was like angry, he had the Japanese anger, and I could feel it. Like when I say the Japanese anger, I'm talking about like I'm resisting from throwing stuff. Like in American Western society, we throw stuff, we punch walls, we curse, in that moment when he is trying to be as respectful as he can, and he's gritting his teeth, I was like, yes, give it to me. So what I'm hoping is we get really good actors. And if that means that, unfortunately, that we don't get, it spoken in English directly, or we get just subtitles or something like that, because of the art of it and needing really good actors to play that role, I'm honestly good with it.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting thing, too, because I wonder if they're going to film it in Japanese as opposed to filming it in English. I would almost assume that they would, in a sense, just because I know a couple of the sort of high members on the development team, they were actually honored as ambassadors, I believe, for one of the islands that the game is surrounds.
Yeah.
So definitely the Japanese culture definitely embraced what they did with the game. So it will be interesting to see if they film it in English or in Japanese. I would hope that they actually film it in Japanese, and that's probably one of the few I would watch with subtitles.
Definitely.
I'm a dubbed guy on anime. I know people, anime snobs, like their subtitles with the original voice work.
Not me.
Not me.
I already read mangas. I'm not about to read subtitles when I'm watching anime.
I want to watch the action. I'm not
exactly.
about to,
I'm trying to look at words go across the screen.
It just depends. It depends, because if it's like an episode of One Piece that I gotta see, like I had to see when they introduced Odin. Okay, I'm sorry, I had to watch that. I had to see the episode where Whitebeard and Goldie Roger clash swords. I'm sorry. When they talk about they had to do the battle, when they did the battle for 3 days between the Whitebeard pirates and the Roger pirates, okay, listen, it's going to be in Japanese. I don't care. I'm going to watch that one. Yeah. When I very first watched, like, Sword of the Stranger, like, if you ever get an opportunity to watch Sword of the Stranger, it is one of the most beautifully animated,
that's a good one,
movies that I've ever seen. And I didn't get to watch it in English right away. I watched it in Japanese first. And it was because I saw like a clip of it, and I was like, I'm watching that. And they didn't have it translated to English right away, so I watch it. So but I think just like you guys, something has to compel me to do that.
Yeah.
Like I don't watch all anime in Japanese. Like if I see it's a mediocre one, or if it's just something I can have playing in the background, okay.
Yeah, well, I think the difference between something anime versus live action is that in the voice acting world, you can get top of the line voice actors to come in and do the voice work for the anime. And
Yeah.
it matches up pretty well. For the sort of live action world, in my opinion, it always just looks goofy because like the lip motions don't match with the words being spoken, so it looks goofy already. But then you don't get top of the line actors to come in and voice over those characters. You're not.
You
Getting,
mean to tell me those
Yeah.
Fist of Fury movies from back in the
Yeah.
70s, they weren't Oscar award?
And they have their place.
their place.
Great acting isn't one of them. And
Exactly.
So, you watch them because they're great martial arts films,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
just
Entertainment.
even Tyson and I, we were watching one of the Ip Man, a scene from one of the Ip Man movies, and just the voice work,
Terrible.
is just terrible. So it's like you might as well just watch the dub version. I remember even when Jet Li he was trying to do his most legendary film. I forget what the title of the film was.
The Hero?
Was it? No, it was.
Some of the one where he played the master who.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And
Fearless?
Fearless. There you go. It
Fearless,
was
yeah.
Fearless.
And which it was a mediocre movie in my opinion. It was nothing in comparison to its Fist of Legend.
Legend. Not even close to
And
Fist of Legend.
but it was just the most goofy thing trying to watch that movie in the English dub because the voice acting is terrible. It's flat. It's always, "What are you doing here?" And it's just like, did y'all even try with this voice acting? So.
They didn't.
So, at that point, like
Just
for a
phoned it
live
in.
action movie, I would rather just watch the live action movie
Exactly.
in the original dub and read the subtitles. But for an anime, give me a dub every single time because you have quality voice actors out there who actually try to do a good job.
Yeah.
Crispin Freeman. You have Johnny Young Bosch.
Okay.
You have a lot of them out there that Stephen Blum. You have Yuri Lowenthal.
Oh, definitely.
So it's like there are just great voice actors. No matter what anybody tries to do, stop.
Well, it's like you can't deny like there are certain American translations that are almost in many cases people consider them to be superior, and it's like Cowboy Bebop is my top.
Mm-hmm.
Your boy from Full Metal.
What's his name? I forget his name right now. The guy who got accused of all that nonsense.
Yeah.
Who played Edward Elric. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's done it.
Untouchable.
Exactly. He
untouchable.
played the voice of Broly in that movie. But yeah. Anyway, we are now moving on from that topic to our third topic, which is the worldwide chip shortage for not just the video game industry, but the car industry as well. Even the cell phone industry is going through a worldwide chips shortage. People are blaming it on the pandemic, but a lot of these chips use the same chipsets that everything else is using. And so now this is a problem with the market that even our president, Joe Biden, is doing an investigation into talking about, how can we get better chipsets going on now. You can honestly blame it on the fact that we only have certain chip makers. It's pretty much a monopoly because everybody's going to the same place to get it, like doggone chips. It's either NVIDIA or you're getting Samsung. Because I know, for instance, iPhone uses NVIDIA. Nintendo uses NVIDIA. I do not know who Sony and Microsoft use for their chips.
I think Microsoft uses NVIDIA.
Yeah,
too.
it's NVIDIA as well. So I'm not saying NVIDIA is running a monopoly on the market.
No.
They probably do have the best chips out there, but clearly a competitor needs to go on and rise up.
But see, that's the thing about it, and this is where I step in on this one, is that the mistake is we're going to make somebody step up. No. The opportunity arises that somebody says, hey, I'm a venture capitalist. We've done our research on doing chips. We get people who have been doing research on doing chips, and maybe they just haven't had the resources allocated to them, and we are able to get people who invest in them to do it. This is how markets work. I also look at it like this. You know what would also be great if somebody did? find out a new way to make different chips.
Exactly.
I mean, like, think about it. You know, you're leaning too long on your right leg. Well, guess what? You have two legs. Somebody needs to step up and be the left leg.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to step up and be the left hand versus the right hand. And the problem is that I hate saying this, but it's like we've become big babies when it comes to situations like this.
Yeah.
Because it's like, where I don't have my video games. Are you alive?
Yeah.
Are you in good health?
Exactly.
do you have food? All right, then you can wait.
Yeah.
You know, the video game industry is not going anywhere anytime soon.
And that's why many people said that Microsoft and Sony could have actually waited to this year to actually launch the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. Because one, there's no video games for either the platform right now anyway. Again, every game that I'm playing right now, aside from Spider-Man Miles Morales, which is actually a PlayStation 4 game, just upscaled, is a PlayStation 4 game. There are no true PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X games out right now. They're not there. So let's actually get into this story. I'm reading this off of GameSpot, but a lot of their sources that they cite is from Bloomberg. So this story is by Jeremy Winslow. It says, months after launch, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S are still very difficult to find, and that's particularly due to a widespread semiconductor shortage. However, the chip scarcity is now reaching crisis levels, impacting industries from car to console production. PlayStation 5 and Xbox shortages could be the least of our concerns. According to The Guardian, the shortage has been steadily worsening since last year. Mirabal Media and tech analyst Neil Campling told the publication that the shortage is likely to worsen because the supply can't keep up with the demand. Chips are everything, Campling said. There is a perfect storm of supply and demand factors going on here, but basically there is a new level of demand that can't be kept up with. Everyone is in crisis and is getting worse. The Guardian's report describes industries being battered by the shortage. Car producers like Ford, General Motors, and Nissan, all of which are placing a great emphasis on electric vehicles, are projecting a decrease in profits. Microsoft and Sony have said the supply issues could last until the second half of this year. Even Apple and semiconductor manufacturer Samsung are feeling the squeeze. This shortage also extends to graphics cards, which are experiencing a supply and demand issue of their own. NVIDIA's 30 series GPUs, for instance, have been hard to come by, so the company brought back its older cards to deal with the shortage. There is no sign of supply catching up or demand decreasing, while prices are rising across the chain, Camping said. This will cross over to people in the street. Expect cars to cost more, phones to cost more. This year's iPhone is not going to be cheaper than last year's. Amidst the chip shortage, there are reports of Nintendo releasing a Switch Pro. This upgraded model is projected to support a new chip that supports better CPU performance, more memory, and DLSS capabilities. In February, President Biden said his administration will launch an investigation looking into the semiconductor shortage. The executive order is aimed at figuring what in the chain went wrong and how it can be repaired to streamline production. For those looking to pick up Microsoft or Sony's next-gen consoles, be sure to hit up our PlayStation 5 restock page or our Xbox Series XS update page. There you'll learn when stock has been replenished and where. So that's the story right there. Again, it's not just the console industry, but it's the car industry as well. They're talking about, even cell phones. You're talking about, he talked about prices being increased because of this shortage. Now, I feel that that's kind of janky because, the shortage isn't your fault or my fault. And when I mentioned that, a competitor needs to rise up, not that you need to manufacture someone to come up.
Yeah.
That's what happened with the car industry. Cadillac was outselling, everybody left and right, and then they made Cadillac have to come down and conform to the different norms of the day. So then it stopped being,
special.
Exactly, and so now every car looks the same, for instance.
Yeah.
And so, here you do need another company, a competent company, that's going to be able to step up and help out with the supply, because clearly the companies involved right now cannot meet the actual demand going on, and so, like I said already, I have my PlayStation 5, so I'm not really worried about it. But other people who also have to deal with scalpers are still going to be going through this issue. They said maybe into the second half of this year.
Yeah, I almost feel like this story is a little bit in America. Everything's a crisis on the news, so it just seems a little bit over the top to me. But and I say that because at the same time where apparently there's no PlayStation 5s able to be manufactured, Sony is also touting that they've had the fastest selling console in the history of the industry, so that those two stories seem to conflict each other.
Yeah.
If it was the slowest selling PlayStation since the PlayStation 3 or something because they couldn't get enough consoles out there, that would make more sense. But that doesn't seem to be the case. So same thing, Microsoft is also boasting that they're having really good sales. So again, it doesn't seem to support the idea that they aren't able to come out with all these systems. So even the vehicle industry, it's like there's no shortage of cars. Like if you want to go buy a car over at the dealership, ain't nobody telling you can't buy a car. So I don't know. The story just seems a little bit like
janky.
Dare I say clickbaitish. That and I get it. You're going to the stores, you don't see PlayStation 5s on the store shelves. But that's just about every single hot console when it comes out.
Yeah.
The Nintendo
Switch is still hard to find.
The Nintendo Switch is still hard to find, and they've been able to do, somewhere over 80 million in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about 20 million consoles a year they've been able to produce, and you still can hardly find them. And that's just, when you have demand that high, that's what you're going to find every single time. So even I remember a few years ago when the iPhones were coming out and, you couldn't find an iPhone, or you had to be on a waiting list. That's going to be every single time. They're never going to drop 200 million iPhones day one. If you want it, you can come and get it.
Mm-hmm.
Things are going to get sold out,
Yeah. And that's just a mark. To me, that's a sign of great
a strong market.
Success.
Exactly.
A strong market is that it is hard to find. What I don't like is when we overuse phrases like crisis. Because there are crises in this world.
Video game consoles
is not one of them.
No one's dying because they can't get a job on.
It's all, well, the cars are going to be hard to make. Okay, and
you can still go to a new car lot and get a new car. Maybe not the one you want, but there are plenty of new cars out there.
Every year they have an overflow of cars they have not sold. They are going to be fine.
Exactly.
The 2016 to the 2017 is it's very minuscule in terms of detail. And if you can't sell it, go right back. Redress it with whatever you gotta redress with whatever apps, because now the car is coming with apps now,
exactly.
Right? So sync it up with phones. You could do a data update. You could do a variety of things. For every situation, there's an opportunity for success, right? Mm-hmm. And what I just feel like is that we're misappropriating words. Misappropriate, but it is misappropriation of certain words and phrases. Like, think about it. We are so opulent in the way that we live that we consider a video game console a car. And what was the other thing? Cell phones?
Cell phones.
A lack of new cell phones? That's our crisis?
Exactly.
Meanwhile, there are people in the world who the weather comes in real bad. They're done.
Destroys an entire island.
I mean,
that's a crisis. A typhoon is a crisis. A hurricane is a crisis. An earthquake is a crisis. This is what you call chip shortage is not. I mean, now maybe people's jobs could be affected by it. People who work at these jobs.
It sounds like if there would only be an increase in demand for jobs.
Exactly.
And manufacturing the chips.
Definitely.
So it doesn't sound like a bad thing in any way. But
no.
I'm definitely going to say that's a first world problem.
It's definitely a first
because
world
I can
problem.
tell you this. When I used to work with one of the former companies that I worked with, we weren't using Microsoft 7 when it came out. Mm-hmm. We were using 98.
Exactly.
When we finally moved to 7, it was only because 12 came out.
Exactly. I was about to say, no one uses the next level of Microsoft because everybody loves the former versions.
Yes.
Because remember when 7 first came out, oh, it's trash, it's garbage. But
It's
then
got too many easily breakable entrances
But then
into it.
3 years into it, 7 was the best user interface ever. It was the best operating system ever. Then when 8 came out, oh, 8 is trash. You know, it's no. So
and even then, we've gotten so comfortable with and that's to my point even further. Apple has a sustainable product. Macintosh is a sustainable product in the MacBooks and the MacBook Airs and the iPads and the iPhones and the AirPods. They have that because the originals were just regular headphones. The originals were just MP3 players.
Yeah.
The originals were just regular laptops, you know? The originals were Windows based. Now you have an alternative. And what I'm saying with the chip shortage is that they need to find out a way to create an alternative. Like, not everything is done just one complete way. The one thing that I'm always sincerely skeptical about this world is that they will sell you a shortage or a quote-unquote crisis to promote something else they got down the pipeline. Because you gotta create a situation where there's a need. You gotta create the need, and then you create the supply, because that guarantees you dollars. And it's not that I'm not I don't want to be conspiratorial about this at all. I'm just saying that calling this a crisis seems a little far-fetched.
It is far-fetched.
Well, and it's similar to what I remember when the Wii came out years ago, and you couldn't find a Wii for a very long time. And people were complaining and accusing Nintendo of manufacturing shortages. And so, again, it's just always going to be that way. If you have a popular console, because nobody's trying to manufacture 100 million consoles. You don't know that it's going to sell that well.
Day one.
Exactly.
For a lot of people.
That could just be a waste of money.
Yeah, for a lot of people, a $500 price tag might be too high.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they might be the type who, because think about it, there's some people who still bought a PS4 last year. Mm-hmm. So are those people going to be looking to upgrade to a PS5 this year? Probably not.
And you don't have to, because even the games that were supposed to come out might be getting pushed back. There's a recent rumor that God of War Ragnarok is probably not going to come this year.
Yeah.
which
is very believable.
It's very believable.
Like I said, the days of getting 3 iterations of a game to one console
are over.
I think that's over. I think the idea, like, maybe Nintendo does the sequel to Breath of the Wild this generation, and that's only because it's built off the same engine. It was originally started out as DLC, and they've been able to just build off of what they did. They did that a couple other times with games like Super Mario Galaxy 2, where it started out as DLC for Super Mario Galaxy, and then they were just like, well, why not just make a new game? And so, but gone are the days of Devil May Cry 1, 2, and 3 coming out on the PS2.
One console.
Yeah.
Or Grand Theft Auto 3, San Andreas, and Vice City coming out on the PlayStation 2. Those days are over. Yeah. You can hardly get a new Grand Theft Auto out anymore anyway. I mean, it's been 8 years. The last one
came out in 2013.
Yeah, it's been 8 years since that game came out. So you're talking, the days of even Capcom doing a new Mega Man every 6 months. I mean, we're just like, except for these new sort of games that come out.
The Street Fighters. The Street Fighters, because now they're all just DLC now.
And that's what a lot of these games need anyway. It's just DLC, because people will come back for DLC.
Yeah. Smash Bros.
The only game that I'm absolutely frustrated about with their DLC is that it'd be like, for example, the Dragon Ball Z game that came out. That game is dope. But I'm going to say this. They're getting on my nerves, because when you see Gogeta from Dragon Ball GT, you're like, ooh, nice. I'm going to go ahead and go buy that. It's like $4.99. Wait a minute. And then you're like, okay, you know what? It comes with a couple other skins. You know what? I'll buy the book. Then it's like, next week, Super Saiyan God Gogeta. Come on. I know you want to. $10. What? I can't do it. And then it's like,
Yeah,
it'd be nice to see Goku, Super Saiyan GT, Gogeta, Super Saiyan GT versus. Doggone it. Go ahead and take my money.
Exactly.
Well, and we've definitely seen developers like DLC can be a good thing. DLC can also be a money grab. What EA was doing a few years ago, where okay, we're gonna give you a game that was halfway developed, and then we're gonna part out the rest of the game to you.
Yeah.
No, I'd rather just wait for the definitive edition and that you're gonna drop in a year or so, and buy the complete game for what'll probably be $30 by that time. So I think a lot of developers shoot themselves in the foot when they keep coming out here releasing these incomplete games. You saw it with we talked about
Cyberpunk
yesterday. Incomplete game coming to the market. You had BioWare do their, what was that game called? Their most recent one that kind of flopped. One with the jetpacks and
Anthem.
Yeah, Anthem. That came out.
Came out half baked.
Yeah, and it's like, these developers are all of a sudden releasing these games saying,
broken games
we can
later
fix
down
it
the
through
road.
patches. And no, by that time, I'm not even going to be interested anymore. You're going to give me a game, and on day one, it's unplayable. And then you're talking about, well, by day 316, it'll be good.
Exactly.
And then it's like, by that time, it's up on my shelf. It's probably back over at GameStop somewhere.
Exactly, because a lot of people did return their actual physical copy of Cyberpunk and even their digital copy of the game as well.
And developers need to stop doing that, because it's like, I don't think anybody's excited about a new Fallout game after they came out with 76.
No.
But when they came out with Fallout 4, that was like legendary.
Yeah.
So now it's like you come out with Fallout 76 and sort of ruin what you had, the reputation you had.
And now people are going to be trepidatious about getting that next game. From
dropping another $70 to get this, and I don't even know if it's going to be any good.
But see, this is where I kind of get upset at the developers, and even a lot of them. I would really like to hold them all to task, because what it is that you sold these consoles as more than just video game consoles. Mm-hmm. You sold them as experiences, and with these great palettes of colors, and it melts your mind, and you fall into this world. And then it's like, that's cool. That's cool. But how much money is it gonna cost you?
Exactly.
When a video, you gotta consider back in the day, you were considered to be a high budget game if you had a $50,000 budget. Nintendo was screaming that they were over budget for, I think, one of the Mario games when they had, wait for it, 12 people working on the game. And they were working on the game since 88. And they released it in 91.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it's because of the tools that they were using and whatnot. But think about that for a minute. That game probably cost them somewhere about, maybe say, $400,000 or $500,000 to make, $500,000 in budget. If we inflate it to today's time, probably $2 to $3 million if you want to do that. But we're talking about 12 people working on a game. Now you got a staff of 200.
Not shoot. Some games from Ubisoft be having a staff of 800 people working on the game, and it's like, why?
You're talking about, like you just said earlier, Thomas. We're never going to be back at three games. You say, okay, we got an engine, right? We got an engine. That'll make it so much. Remember the light engine and everything like that? Remember how they said, the light engine, the Unreal engine, all these different things will make it so much easier for us to develop. But you're taking 3 to 4 years, and you're spending $20 million. And if your game don't sell a million copies within a month, it's considered to be a failure. Not only does it not get a sequel, it destroys the company. So
Final Fantasy 15, for example, all of this DLC got cut.
Well, the way that even, you look at a company like Konami, you're talking about Metal Gear Solid, and now all of a sudden you guys are on the verge
of selling your entire business. Because
of what? Like and the last Metal Gear still sold well, from my understanding.
But in day one, they did $234 million day one when Phantom Pain came out.
Yeah.
So if you turn that into like copies, also that $60, you're talking about maybe right around 2.7 or 3 million, sold.
But that's not why they're folding. They're folding because they're not producing anymore.
Yeah.
That video game department brought in so much revenue for them.
They were the ones
and they burnt bridges with everybody.
They were the ones who kicked Kojima out of the company.
And Igarashi.
Yeah.
They kicked out Kojima. They kicked out Igarashi. They kicked out
They definitely
everybody.
got what they deserved.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I think the thing about the video game industry, and I think with companies, and not necessarily companies like Sony with the PlayStation, I think they're giving developers really good tools to use, and for those gamers who want those really great experiences. And I'll always say, there's always going to be a place for that, for a God of War, for a Horizon, but there's still a place also for games that don't need to look that great.
Yeah.
Again, you've seen some of the most popular games in these last few years, like a Minecraft.
Hollow Knight.
Hollow Knight. You see, what's that one game where you're on the spaceship and you gotta throw off the imposter?
Among Us.
Among Us. These are super popular games that could have come out on the original PlayStation.
I'd even venture to say Fortnite, because Fortnite is done on my cell phone too.
Yeah, Fortnite is another one of those games, and it's like you don't need all of this graphical, over-the-top prowess to get the everyday person to come and play. And now again, you're having even the guys behind Ghost of Tsushima. They were talking about how it took them 5 years to perfect the battle system.
Exactly.
Not create the game. So I don't even know how long they were making the game.
So Ghost of Tsushima was originally announced, I believe, after Infamous Second Son. Infamous Second Son came out in 2014 of March. Sucker Punch announced Ghost of Tsushima July of that year.
And what year was that again?
2014. So it was a 6-year development cycle, and it took them 5 years to perfect the battle system.
Yeah,
and Nintendo was no stranger to it. Remember, Zelda was originally announced in 93.
Yeah.
And then we didn't.
Ocarina.
Yeah, then we didn't get Ocarina of Time until 98. So and that was a major development because Z targeting was so revolutionary that no one had even ever done it before.
Keep in mind when they had released, it's going back to the archives, guys. When they talked about, and you got to consider, there's a major difference. Zelda, when it came out, it was a pioneer in 3D. Mm-hmm. There had never been anything like it. Like, guys, I still remember back in '96 when I went over to Toys R Us. That big box store they don't have around that much anymore. Mm-hmm. But I still remember going over there, playing on that 4x3 screen, playing Super Mario 64, and I remember going home to play Mario Kart, and I was like, I can't do this. This is antiquated. I remember telling my dad, I can't play this outdated Reploid garbage. But I remember I told my dad I can't do it no more. And he was like, Tier, you're just overhyping it. You're over-exaggerating. And then sure enough, he didn't tell me, but he's Legend of Zelda. But you can also do Assassin's Creed. You can also do a Fable. You can also do Spider-Man. You can also do
God of War, any of them. Yeah.
Batman, Arkham City, still one of my all-time favorites.
Well, and that's the beauty of the gaming industry, though. You don't have to have one style of gameplay.
Yeah.
I sort of miss that about the older consoles because I remember when sort of during the era of the PlayStation 3 / Xbox 360, and it's sort of like, but backtrack to, just 5 years beforehand, and you had sort of one of the golden eras of video games creatively, in my opinion, when you had the PS2. And you just had this large variety of different sorts of games. I don't feel like you've really been able to see again. And again, I don't know that you ever will because development cycles are too long.
Yeah.
Think about the gap between Kingdom Hearts 2 to Kingdom Hearts 3.
My
And what are you talking about? Over a decade, easy. But because Kingdom Hearts 2 came out in 04, I think.
04. And then Kingdom Hearts 3 launched in 2019.
Yeah, so you're talking about 15-year gap. And then the game came out to some